From the Asgardian realm to the planet Xandar, an extensive quest was undertaken by the heroes of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in pursuit of the chosen two who could competently represent the last batch of 60. After a thorough investigation, Agent Anna Menezes and Agent Joel D1A5 were deemed worthy. So sit back and relax while they present to you the UG Response Speech.
It's an honor standing here to see that our farewell can draw in a larger audience than stand-up comedians like Saurabh Pant. Over the past few days, we've noticed that our batchmates have been unusually sweet to the both of us, and we most certainly know why. Don't worry, all your secrets and adventures are safely written down on the sheet of paper. It'll come out in due course.
A very good evening to everyone gathered here. On behalf of the batch of 2015, we'd like to extend a warm welcome to all the dignitaries who made time off their busy schedules to grace our farewell with their presence.
It sure was a daunting task to summarize 4.5 years worth of memories into a single UG response speech. So to make it simple, we have divided it into first year, second year, third year, and fourth year, or in other words, phases of Anna's different relationships.
Batch of 2015, or as we fondly call ourselves, the last true Johnite. Now, before the esteemed meme makers of Troll Night let their talents unleash, we're here to substantiate how we've actually been the last in a myriad of circumstances. Beginning in the month of June, the summer of 2015. After having cleared the last version of the St. John's entrance exam, we progressed to the next big step and the last of its kind, the interview. Around 300 hopeful souls went through 3 days of grueling observation and carefully planned activities, and finally, the last batch of 60 was born.
We'd like to take a moment here to commend the MCI and the management for doing away with this tedious task of curating a batch and making do with NEET and a 1-month-long orientation. Because even though we have been through countless team building activities potentiating our interpersonal skills, we've still had petty batch fights on cold December nights. Even though we cleared a board interview with 20 plus bishops from the CBCI and the management of the SJMC, we still struggle in a simple one-on-one viva.
And even though we were exclusively chosen after undergoing psychoanalytic tests, we still show traits of severe OCD, bipolarity, depression, anxiety, anorexia that reversed after traveling the world with millionaire partners, erotomania, and of course, kleptomania. We were sure a pious bunch back in the day. Regardless of having Poets of the Fall perform on our very own front yard, we chose to listen to the scholars of the Bible, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, at the last retreat to be held in Carmelarum. Though we missed out on what was supposed to be our first autumn muse, we sure did enjoy a great bonding experience. Some of us bonding a wee bit more than the others.
We'd like to specially thank the Department of Anatomy, Physiology and Biochemistry for spoon-feeding us and making our fundamental basics strong. Presumably because back in the day, their 1 hour lectures were not filled with 30-minute roll calls using a loudspeaker.
Our first ICCs highlighted when Pandora luckily chose the better box to open, paving the way to us showcasing our talents not only in the field of music, dance, fashion shows, gaming, and art, but also sports. Sorry, that was just hockey.
Motherers! Go Motherers! Go Motherers! I like it!
We knew it.
I like it!
We entered second year, and the 6 groups of anatomy dissection were rearranged into clinical batch A, batch B, and the self-proclaimed motherers.
Legend has it that there prevailed another clinical batch, but its existence is yet to be confirmed. O15 was additionally self-dissected into the rainbows, the anti-squad, the northeast, the ground floor boys, the first floor boys, the German boys, and the Mallus. But it was the sole Nathanos who stood strong and united the batch in times of trouble. That is, if he wasn't too busy complaining about the paucity of his lifespan.
The first event that we conducted as a batch, Jingle Rock 2016, was soon approaching. And as we struggled to meet deadlines, more of the batch's members were banned from making it to Jingle Rock practice. Safe to say, a great show was put up in terms of performances and deco alike. The much-awaited batch trip followed, the location being decided after giving considerable and due importance to which committee senior had previously swum in the specific resort.
Go Mac!
As girls opened their racy wardrobe doors, religious opened their church doors and threw them out. Amidst the early morning chorizo bows, beaches, forts, haunted churches with possessed dogs, and late night fenning, the powers of the Mother Superior unleashed, having survived a great man versus van episode. Special thanks to the batch's Portuguese members who provided for us a great stay and a wonderful adventure.
Unlike the rest of the batch that struggled to organize a second batch trip, the guardians of our galaxy, aka our sisters, went on innumerable trips using various modes of transportation including autos, cycles and boats, having a great deal of fun while simultaneously escaping the batch's intergalactic shenanigans. Speaking of shenanigans, the peak of our batch's melodrama was attained during the weeks that led up to the elections. When pathology labs, clinics, and the Johnite mess became hotspots of campaigning, anti-campaigning, personality disorders exacerbated, and nominees backed out but wistfully stood again, God finally showered his blessings on the people of his own country, and thus the Mull and male-dominated 7+1 committee was formed. Before we forget, we'd like to mention that Zomato, Swiggy, and Uber Eats contacted the both of us to distinctively thank the former mess secretary and chairman for having helped them increase in the gross sales during their mess tenure. At least somebody misses you.
Before we knew it, we were in the honeymoon phase of MBBS, 3rd year. And sticking true to its name, the inter- and intra-batch relationships in 2015 reached a pinnacle point. Shadow warriors and stormtroopers combated over winning Princess Leia Pinero in what came to be commonly known as the Star Wars. Which was all quite surprising considering that our father, Huatan Garden, was meticulously watching over us with his CCTV angels, and half our time was spent trying to arrive at the mess before 8:15 and then taking the road less traveled back to college.
After 2.5 years of consistent effort, this was the year that we finally bagged both the literary and the cultural trophy. The memes and confessions about O15 winning ICC and the girls' hostel started sharing a common similarity. They both were too dry.
The ICCs were nothing but a trampoline jump to one of the biggest events St. John's has ever witnessed, Muse 2018. Unlike the popular belief that the intensity of Muse breaks a batch, it rather made us. And it was this combined harmonized effort that helped taking Muse to a whole new level by introducing 3-day pro shows, a multitude of workshops, and standing against all odds to re-establish the Johnite tradition of having an outdoor rock concert.
In the words of King T'Challa of Wakanda, at the time of crisis, the wise build bridges, while the fools build barriers. We must find a way to look after each other as if we are a single tribe. Yes, it was these bridges that we built that stood strong and prevented the Kerala floods from drowning us and the fest. Working as a single tribe, along with the guidance of Ritesh, Alex, and our Vice President, Divya, we saw participation skyrocketing to such ceiling heights that registrations closed weeks before events started, and participants were even requested to back out. All the cans of Coke, 12-hourly newsroom cleaning by the Gensec, post-Sunday mass ticket sales, midnight poster sticking, and the all-nighters pulled by the batch sure did go a long way in making Muse progress smoothly. We fought like a preemie with the help of our babies. And after it was all done, we not only contributed to our cause, but also saved a substantial amount to fund our batchmates' brother's wedding.
Some of the other highlights of third year were our return to Muglur with chat. This time, gender separated, but with fluent Kannada skills thanks to our dedication to attending Kannada class and enough medical knowledge to thwart confusions between menstrual cycles and other cycles. The Annie 2018 was one of the batch's front-running events after the team emerged victorious, defeating the very legends that introduced and made them grow in the love of hockey, the batch of 2013. Nevertheless, time flew too quick and we'd made it to final year.
Shifting to the next gear not only meant seeing an added number of patients at the hospital, but becoming patients ourselves. Introducing an H1N1 epidemic, getting operated for mesenteric infarcts, vein thrombosis, and making the majority of the dengue patients at the private and the semi-private wards were all nothing but a learning experience.
Undeterred by our chaotic schedules, we took part in the ICCs, sweeping most of the main stage events clean. We stayed true to our Johnite inherited odd batch traditions of annually winning mock rocks and mad ads, all while using self-targeted humor, proving that the sole remaining batch of 60 was more entertaining than the batches of 150 put together.
Then came the celebration of the success of Muse, the annual batch party. Unfortunately, festivities ended before they could even start. But fortunately enough, they restarted again. In the early hours of morning, day broke to our all-time favorite bands, Offbeat and Tendipillar, performing karaoke in absolute sobriety, which we hopefully see more of later tonight. Ninth term was where we witnessed the real sly infinity wars between clinical batches over tutorials, extra classes by Professor Chattu Xavier, and clinical batch photo shoots. It was soon the month of September, where most time was spent following our baby's orders of writing cards, taking photographs with every other batchmates in our own launch studio, all building up to today. And like Dr. Strange pointed out, we're in the end game now.
We'd like to especially remember and thank all our faculty, the cooperative patients that we made uncooperative, the management, the lab assistants, and Krantini, without whom we wouldn't have made it this far.
To the PG and super specialty residents who are here with us today, thank you for teaching us medicine, obstetrics, orthopedics, and a host of other subjects. Special thanks to the batch of 09 for not breaking our stage during Muse and keeping it intact. We couldn't have done it without you.
To the batch of 010, thank you for teaching us to skillfully perform at Jingle Rocks and guiding us to conducting our role.
To our grand committee, the batch of 011, thank you for what we thought would be the first and last time we dress up for a farewell. And to the batch of 2012 for making us do it again.
To the batch of 2013 for being the best committee we could have ever asked for being there for us through thick and thin, and for all those daily committee meetings that we had to attend to gain knowledge about the host of John Knight traditions that will stick with us throughout.
I'd like to take this opportunity to restart a tradition that was stopped last year, thanking your immediate juniors in a farewell speech. Batch of 2016. On behalf of award-winning debutant director and the short film team, we'd like to specially thank you all for providing us with a main stage and helping us discover talents we previously did not know we had. On a more serious note though, we are grateful for all your help during our Muse and an array of other college events. We may have had our differences, but we'll certainly miss you, both on field, on stage, but definitely on that basketball court where we bonded the most.
And to the batch of 2017. Thank you for restoring our faith in the 150 and for being the best babies we could have asked for. For restarting the true John Knight tradition of organizing a juniors fashion show, and thank you 019 for that amazing performance. 017, you were the pillars on which Autumn Muse 2018 stood, and we are ever indebted to you for the undying support you've always given us. Kudos to you all for the amazing day that you've planned out for us, and for making both Joel and I nostalgic about the time we'd emceed for 2013's farewell.
Speaking of which, thank you for the continuous uninterrupted electricity supply. It means a lot.
And finally, to our beloved batch of 2015. Somewhere between large dusty foyers with wooden stages,
To the mirror-shine granite floors.
between playing mini militia,
To playing Pokemon Go.
between sharing blood in physiology tutorials,
To sharing answers in ortho exams.
between gaining weight, doing HIIT,
To gaining weight again.
and somewhere between the horrible mess food,
To the horrible mess food.
we grew up.
In the words of Iron Man, heroes are not made by the paths they are graced with, but by the path that they choose. And as we stand here today, we feel proud to look at the physicians, surgeons, pediatricians, entrepreneurs, and Telugu power stars of tomorrow.
And even though we have the final year exams to look forward to, we're here, all decked up, to celebrate the wonderful 4.5 years we've had together. And we're sure that with the grace of God, we'll make it through the other side. As Tony Stark once said, part of the journey is the end.
Here's to the wonderful memories that we have made, and to the million more that we are going to. Wakanda forever!